Vasudevaya. Something like this. So we are reading from the very good book. It's called the Srimad Bhagavatam. Oh, I can't share my screen. You guys are not being nice.
Okay.
Now I can.
Cool.
All right. Let me find Bhagavatam. Oh, I see. I need to. Okay. So we're reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, and we are well into the 10th canto. Gosh, we're almost done with the book, 83rd chapter, and some very interesting verses here. So this is verse number 5. So I'll just go through the word for word. Sri Rishi Uvacha, so the great say, so Sukadeva Goswami, he said thus that Uttama Shloka, great personalities who are glorified in choice poetry. What a beautiful name. Krishna is sometimes referred to Uttama Shloka, that people glorify him with choice words. Sika Manim, he's the crest jewel of those whose Uttama Shlokas. Janeshu, his devotees, Pishtu Vatsu, while they're glorifying, Antaka Kaurava, and these are the two different clans that are mentioned here. Striya, we know it means women. Sametya, meeting, and Govinda Kata, we all know what that means. Topics about Lord Govinda. Mita means among one another, and Agrinnan, spoke, tree, means like three, loka, in this world. And we know what Gita means, like Bhagavad Gita, sung, Shrinu, please hear. Varnayami, I will describe to you, Parikshit Maharaj. The great sage Sukadeva Goswami said, as Yudhisthira and the others were thus praising Lord Krishna, the crest jewel of all sublimely glorified personalities, the women of the Antaka and Kaurava clans met with one another and began discussing topics about Govinda that are sung throughout the three worlds. Please listen as I relate these to you. And Sri Draupadi said, O Vaidarbhi, Bhadra, Jambavati, Kausalya, Satyabhauma, and Kalindi, O Saibya, Rohini, Lakshmana, and other wives of Lord Krishna, please tell me how the Supreme Lord Achyuta, imitating the ways of this world by his mystic power, came to marry each of you. Purport, the Rohini addressed here by Draupadi is not Lord Balaram's mother, but another Rohini, the foremost of the 16,000 princesses Lord Krishna rescued from the prison of Bhaumasura. Draupadi turns to her as the representative of all 16,000 and as a virtual equal to Sri Krishna's 8 chief wives. So it's really hard to see everybody here, but, and let's see. Ananda Bihari Prabhu, maybe you fit, I don't know enough. I think you fit this bill. I'm trying to find somebody on the call who's happily married.
I am happily married. Yes.
Okay. So tell me, how did you meet your wife? Briefly.
We met online.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, my family freaked out, but it all worked out nicely. We
Where
met
did you get married?
online. We met in India in person. We met online, started talking for 6 months. Then we went to India to see each other in person, and I proposed in India. And then we went back to Russia, got married, and then we came here.
Okay. And let me ask you a question. How do you feel as you remember and talk about that experience?
Which one? I
No,
have so
just like
many
I asked you that
experiences.
question. So right now, after you just finished talking about that, how if you look into your heart, into your mind, how do you feel?
I'm trembling. I'm in ecstasy.
Okay. That is the point, though. That's the point. just imagine what a fantastic question Draupadi is asking. What, asking about anyone, usually you would ask that question. Usually it's kind of an intimate question that you wouldn't like the first thing out of your mouth when you meet somebody and you see they have a ring on their finger. But you might, if you're having a good conversation on a flight, and ask, well, how did you get? And they usually light up. If they have, that's why I said happily married, by the way. They usually light up because it's an enlivening question. So imagine how enlivened these wives of Krishna are. The whole rest of the chapter is going to be them telling the story about how they got married because of this one question. Because of this one question by Draupadi. And that's the topic of today's talk, is the importance of questions. Because we see it here. And I actually made a little PowerPoint, if you don't mind me showing that a little bit, just to the power of questions. Can you see that?
Yes, Prabhu.
So, so this is the first one that, like I asked Ananda Bihari Prabhu, questions that endear the questioner. Hopefully he's going to think more highly of me or more intimately after I ask him that question, right? And we'll also talk about the quality of questions, some questions from the Gita and the Bhagavatam, and about being curious. And I have to do this all in like a very short amount of time. So that's what we just read, this one. What a great question. What a great question Draupadi asks, Just imagine how sweet the atmosphere was when all of them were recounting how they got married to Lord Krishna. Right? And we're going to hear about it in the next few verses. So it's brilliant, right? And another question that was endearing was the question to Chitraketu. Angira Muni, he says, I can observe that your mind is not pleased. You seem not to have achieved your desired goal. Is it because of you yourself, or is it caused by others? Your pale face reflects your deep anxiety. And then listen to this. Sukadev tells Parikshit Maharaj, the great sage knew everything. He already knew what was upsetting Chitraketu, but still that question endeared him more, that the relationship between Angira Muni and Chitraketu became so tight. And if we know the pastime, it's going to become very important later on when Chitraketu's son passes away and Angira comes back to preach to him. Right? So he inquired from the king in this way. Thus King Chitraketu, desiring a son, bent low in great humility and spoke to the great sage as follows. So endearing, just by asking a question. And if we think in the nectar of instruction, right? Guyam akyati prichtati, revealing minds in confidence and inquiring confidentially. This is how we exchange love amongst devotees. So think about this deeply. We ask so many dang questions every day. But we sometimes forget about how powerful they are.
That's what it is.
And how you can, somebody said, that's what it is. I could hear them say, I don't know if they went off of mute or whatever, but anyway, inquiring confidentially, it's one of these are the two of the 6 loving exchanges between devotees. So questions endear us if we ask the right question at the right time, the right place, the right circumstance, to the right person in the right mood. Okay? So that's about endearing. And now just in general, listen, this is right in the very beginning of the Bhagavatam, and Sutta Goswami is just so pleased. Just try to take this out of just the black and white and imagine they're at Naimisharanya. And he says, oh, my dear sages, I have been justly questioned by you. Your questions are worthy because they relate to Lord Krishna, and so are of relevance to the whole world's welfare. Only questions of this sort are capable of completely satisfying the self. So he was just so blissed out just by the question. And then we do have to read a little. Prabhupada's purport on this verse is just so amazing. The whole world is full of questions and answers. The birds, beasts, and men are all busy in a matter of perpetual questions and answers. In the morning, the birds in the nest become busy with questions and answers. The human being, unless he is fast asleep at night, is busy with questions and answers. The businessmen in the market are busy with questions and answers. And so also the lawyers in the court and the students in the schools and colleges. The legislators in the parliament are also busy with questions and answers, and the politicians and the press representatives are all busy with questions and answers. Although they go on making such questions and answers for their whole lives, they are not at all satisfied. Satisfaction of the soul can only be attained by questions and answers on the subject of Krishna. So it does also point us in the direction of where a lot of our questions and answers should be heading. And then, so that's, we talked about questions that endear. Now, somebody's got to go off on mute. I can hear like them moaning or something. Or maybe they're just in ecstasy. I might be the other thing. So then there's a quality to questions. So Prabhupada really emphasized this question from Sanatana Goswami to Lord Chaitanya. He really just thought it was the essence of a great question, right? Keami, who am I? Why am I suffering? Why did the threefold miseries always give me trouble? If I do not know this, how can I be benefited? Srila Prabhupada quoted this so often. And it's just so, and even Sanatana Goswami knows the answer to this, right? He's a great, brilliant person. But often, even when you ask questions, you know the answer, you sometimes get even more, it again makes more of a connection with the question and answer. And also you learn more. But what an important thing. We sometimes, you have one good sour cream sabji and you forget about the threefold miseries. Right? We can easily forget about just how we're always adhyatmic, adhibautic, adhidaivik. They're always causing so much trouble. So what a great question. And Arjuna, does anyone know how many questions Arjuna asked in Bhagavad Gita? I can't see the chat, so I'll just tell you, it's 17. And there's so many good questions. And one question, the other point is that one question can lead to, like, look at this question. This question, you could say, sets the scene for the whole Bhagavad Gita. And this is not even from a not so great soul. Dhritarashtra said, "Oh Sanjaya, after my sons and the sons of Pandu were at Kurukshetra, what did they do?" Right? But what a great question! And what about this question? I love this question. Arjuna's scratching his head. He said, "Wait! This is the 4th chapter, right? Vivishwan's older than you, so how could you have instructed him way back when?" What a great question. And of course, Arjuna, you could imagine, doesn't say, "Hey, what's the matter? That's impossible." He doesn't, it's not challenging. You can imagine he's quite cordial in asking his question, but so powerful. And Maharaj Parikshit asking all these great questions of Sukadeva Goswami, right? Where, this question sets off a whole canto of the Bhagavatam. Where and when did the meeting of Vidura and Maitreya take place? And just that question, boom, you get a whole canto of the Bhagavatam. And then Shonaka Rishi and the Rishis, I thought that would be a name for a good band, Shonaka and the Rishis. But anyway, Shonaka is asking these questions of Sutta Goswami. And look at these questions, famous question, right? Since Sri Krishna, the absolute truth, the mystic of all powers, master of all mystic powers, has departed for his own abode, please tell us to whom the religious principles have now gone for shelter. And we know that Dharma Bhagavata, you find it in the Bhagavatam. And that's at the end of the 3rd chapter. And then the 4th and 5th chapter are all based on this question. Because then we hear about how Vyasadeva came to write the Bhagavatam and how Narada Muni, said that, what's the matter with you? Right? So this one question, so powerful. And this earlier, his transcendental acts are magnificent and gracious, and great learned sages like Narada sing of them. Please therefore speak to us who are eager to hear about the adventures he performs in his various incarnations. And that, you could say, is the next 9 cantos, right? All the different incarnations, right? Vaman, Varaha, Nishinga, etc., all based on this question. Such a powerful question. How are we doing time-wise? Okay, we have a little more. We have some more time. And well, okay. Before we go on to that last part. So, any questions, comments, thoughts so far, either about questions that endear or just how powerful questions are, and questions also they steer a conversation, right? You really do. In one sense, you control the conversation by the questions that you ask. And sometimes, so therefore, sometimes it's nice, sometimes you just see a devotee, Haribol, 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 and how are you? I'm fine. But you might ask them. I remember during the pandemic, Ramapada Swami came to Washington, D.C. And so we, in those days, right, you just go for a walk. You can't be inside with anybody. So we went for a walk. And we were, talking about this and that, ISKCON, this and that, whatever. And then I said, Maharaj, tell me, what are you reading these days? And that turned into an hour and a half of just incredible Krishna Katha, just by that one question. What are you reading these days? So questions are just that powerful. So any questions or comments or thoughts about either questions that endear or just the power of questions?
Hare Krishna. Can you
Hare
hear
Krishna,
us?
a little hard to hear you.
Yeah. Hare Krishna.
A little better?
Can you hear me here now?
Yep.
I always found it amusing when I was astounded that Prabhupada would say at one point, do you have any questions? Because, I used to go to church and they just talk to you. Nobody asks any questions. There's no interaction at all, although it's perfect in one sense. But I was always amused when Prabhupada would say, when somebody would ask like ridiculous questions, he would say, you don't know the answer and you don't even know the questions.
Mm,
We didn't know what to
Yeah.
ask, right?
right. And Prabhupada only asked one question of his guru, only one question. But look at the power of that one question. How can I serve you? One question, and we're all sitting here having this class because of that one fantastic question. And people all over the planet are getting benefited by Krishna consciousness because of one question that Prabhupada asked them, how can I serve you? Power of questions. Other thoughts before we move on?
I have a thought, Vraj Bihari Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu.
As if you ask a sincere Vaishnava a simple question, for example, you ask somebody who's practicing bhakti, what time is it? It's a simple question. They will say, it's time to surrender. They will immediately start thinking, my time here is limited. I have to surrender. I have to do what I'm supposed to do. I have to purify myself and do some service. That's a Vaishnava thinking, even to such a simple question.
Oh, nice. You see, I told you my mind thinks like a 60s and 70s jukebox. So I'd answer that question. Does anybody really know what time it is? And quoting Chicago. But that's a little mundane. Bhima Prabhu. You have your hand up, but you're on mute.
Yes, answer to does anybody know what time it is? Does anybody really care?
Really care.
Because I can't imagine why. We all have time enough to die.
Yeah, it was a good song in
Right?
some ways.
Right, yeah. We all have time enough to die. Very quickly, just in reference to this idea of the right questions, perfect answers type of thing. The Socratic method is a way of arguing a point by continually asking questions that reduces a person's argument down to its fallacy. You are aware of this, the Socratic method?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So basically, you know where you're heading, but instead of arguing a point, going loggerheads with somebody's reasoning, so-called reasoning or logic, you ask questions and let the fallacy of a person's argument, let's say a materialist argument, break down themselves. You let them break. It requires a bit of patience, tolerance, and very deep knowledge, not only of your own stance, but of the other person's stance. And, by a series of questions, one can ask, you know, some basic um, leading leading questions in order to get someone to actually volunteer to surrender, so to speak.
Yes,
Because
good point.
yeah. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, thank you. This is a little different than I'm going to get to the last part of the class. But one time some devotee asked him about some people who are not, they're impersonalists or Mayavadis, and Prabhupada said, he said, well, you don't criticize them by name because somehow they become popular. He said, ask what their philosophy is, and then say, well, that's interesting because Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita the opposite, and like that with it. So anyway, interesting. But let's carry on because we have a couple more points to make before class is over. Oops. Okay, so of course we know this verse about how important it is to ask questions, and in the purport, Prabhupada says, what does he say? Absurd inquiries shouldn't happen. So your question should be relevant. But I was thinking about this, because in my service, the number one cause of conflict in the world and in ISKCON and all over the Shastra is when we make assumptions that turn out to be wrong, right? So here, Parvati is, it's a quite a unique scene. Lord Shiva is giving class to sannyasis, and he has his wife on his lap. And Chitraketu's up in the flower air playing, and he's not actually criticizing, he's just astonished. But Parvati, instead of asking Chitraketu, what are you making fun of my husband? And Chitraketu, no. Instead of that, she doesn't ask the question. She makes an assumption, and he has to take birth as a demon. Of course, he becomes a great devotee, but still. But the point is that there's a saying: "Be curious, not judgmental." So being curious instead of jumping to conclusions and taking because we make assumptions all day long, and maybe 70% of them are accurate, but the others we should probably test and check, especially if they have to do with forming an opinion about a Vaishnava. So here also, Parikshit Maharaj assumes Samak Rishi was faking it, and so he garlanded him with a dead snake, and Kali Yuga began, and the Bhagavatam was spoken. So, it was Krishna's arrangement. But still, if he would have just sat, waited for the sadhu to come out of his meditation and just say, did you know that I was here? So we can clarify things when we make assumptions, they just fly all over the place. So it's something to catch ourselves and to be curious instead of being too quick to be judgmental. So that's a different kind of question, a question for clarification purposes. But it could be a great way to avoid offending devotees, or just about being in anxiety. I was dealing with a devotee case the other day. I deal with conflict resolution. I was really not looking forward to talking to this one devotee who I had assumed had a certain opinion that I really didn't want to get into too much. So finally, after like doing everything else, fixing my glasses 3 times, doing my laundry, trying to avoid it as much as I could, I gave him a call, and it turned out that it was a great conversation. And I wasted all of that stupid mental energy with my assumptions. So being curious instead of judgmental is a great way for avoiding offenses and also just living a much more peaceful life. Yeah. So, just in general, being innocently curious and not having a hidden agenda. Have you ever given a class or been in a class and somebody is asking a question, and they want for political reasons, like they'll say, "Oh, Vraj Bihari, if a temple president, doesn't listen to you and just orders you around, what should a devotee do? What do you think what does the Shastra say about that?" So there's an agenda there. And it might be a good, fair enough question for a private conversation, but so being truly curious instead of feigning it, yes. And being open to what the answer is going to be. You might not get what you want. Right? You ask a sadhu a question and he or she may not they might give you the answer that you need, and that might be different than the answer that you want. So you have to really be ready for that when we ask questions. And there's this saying, there's a study from the 1970s, but it's still pretty pertinent today, that in communication, only 7% of communication is the word choice and of communicating emotions, and 38% is your tone of voice. The others is body language. So, having the right tone of voice actually makes a big difference when you're asking a question. Oops, what happened there? Whoops. Okay. So, yeah, that was kind of what I wanted to cover. Oh, and the other thing is, after you ask a question, then you got to listen, right? Imagine Maharaj Parikshit asked Sukadeva Goswami a question, then as Sukadeva Goswami's, answering, he's checking his phone or whatever, just looking around the bank of the Ganges. You can imagine how fixed Maharaj Parikshit was after he asked the question. You can imagine how fixed Shonaka and the sages of Naimisharanya were. You can imagine how fixed Vidura was when he was asking Maitreya questions, and certainly Arjuna when after asking Krishna those 17 questions in the Bhagavad Gita. So listening after asking questions is super important. But I just wanted to, when I read this, when I read the verse that you asked me to give class on today, I just tried to envision Draupadi talking to these great women, devotees, and intimate associates of Lord Krishna, and just how wonderful the mood must have been, and in the upcoming verses as they all tell that story and talk to each other and remind each other about Krishna. It's just beautiful. Questions are important. So we have a little more time as instructed by Ananda Bihari Prabhu. So comments, questions, thoughts?
Thank you, Vraj Bihari Prabhu. I didn't realize this whole class would be about questions. But still, thank you for stopping. A follow-up question. Did Arjuna on the battlefield expect a certain answer from Krishna? For example, yes, Arjuna, go to the forest, forget the war. Did Arjuna expect anything like that?
Well, we know that in some places, Prabhupada mentions that Arjuna is asking for our benefit. Right? He says that in several places in his commentary on the Bhagavad Gita. Now, I'm sure that's from his predecessor Acharya's comments. So, so you look at the Bhagavad Gita and the Shastra in general on different levels. It's such a they're so powerful. These they're unlimitedly deep, and so you can look at them from different points of view. So hey, look at that. There's a great Vaishnava. So we can also see that Arjuna wasn't super happy because he asked the same question at the beginning of chapter 5 as he asked in chapter 3, saying, well, come on, which is better? Gyan or karma? Because he was seeing them as two separate things, right? Karma, something entangling, Gyan, going off to the forest and getting no karma. And in the 4th chapter, Krishna tries to clarify that with those kind of also a little hard to follow. Action in inaction, inaction in action, like that. So when we look at the conversation from that point of view, then we might say, yeah, maybe Arjuna was hoping for, to get a free ticket to the forest. Because, what he was being asked to do is wild. All these people, because he was a cultured person, they have to kill all your relatives. It's not exactly a walk in the park. Yeah. But on another level, sometimes Prabhupada would say that Arjuna is asking these questions for our benefit. Even I think the universal form, in one place he says, he's showing you the universal form so that people in the future who claim to be God, but Arjuna being a great devotee, he didn't have to see. It's explained that his vision, it says that Krishna gave him the vision of the universal form, but that vision was a step down, not a step up. It was a lower vision because he was dealing directly with the personality of Godhead. So but we want to be, if you listen to some of the morning walks with Prabhupada, you'll sometimes see devotees trying to manipulate Prabhupada by asking him questions. I remember one, I won't mention the name, but some women had started an ashram in Oregon, and this one devotee who was in charge of Sankirtan was kind of saying, Prabhupada, wouldn't it be better if everyone went out on Sankirtan instead of did an independent program, somewhere else? And Prabhupada, of course, was so sharp, he didn't fall for it. But so you do want to be a little careful about being manipulative. Other comments, questions? Beam, I don't know if you still have your hand up from before or if this is a new hand.
He's like Draupadi. His hands are in the air all the time.
Well, we just heard about Draupadi today, so there you go.
I found it interesting that you were saying Arjuna might have wanted like a ticket, like, asking because he wanted something. My spiritual master, when I would ask a question, he would say, have you already decided what you want to do? Or do you want to know what I want you to do? Or
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, that's very sweet of him to say that because, do you really want to hear what I have to say? Right, because sometimes we shop around for the answer, right? We keep on asking people the same question until we get the answer that we want. So it's so connecting that to the topic today, we really have to be, and I'm preaching to myself more than you all, but we really have to be eager to make serious spiritual advancement and see bhakti is not a sentimental thing. It's not an automatic process. You just do your schnick, giddy, giddy, your 16 rounds. And all of a sudden, and when you leave this world, boom. But it's a real spiritual science. And there's a very specific process, ado shodha, tata sadhu sangha bhajana kriya narta nivritti nishta, etc. And being serious about the science and taking it up in a very mature way also means asking the right questions, not getting caught up in the blah blah. I deal with devotees' conflicts all the time. It's just like, sometimes if I'm Krishna, if I'm feeling my Wheaties a little bit Krishna conscious wise, in my mind, of course, I don't say this because it's not my service. But it's like, come on, guys, life is so temporary. We're all going to die. But we have such more important things than worry about somebody insulted you or this or that.
Is that how
Yeah.
you solve the conflict, Vraj Bihari?
No, it's not. But I'm just giving you what goes on in my mind, not what I say. No, it's not really what goes in my mind all the time. But the point is, tying it to today's class, questions can be a great way to catapult our bhakti. And the other thing about asking questions and getting advice is to follow it. Now, I don't know who Min Kim is, but Min Kim, please, you have your hand up.
Thank you very much. I often hear humility is one of the highest qualities of Vaishnavas. I'm wondering if you could speak a little bit about how we could practice humility when we ask questions.
Okay. Well, first of all, in the Brihat Bhagavatamrita, Sanatana Goswami compares, but he doesn't compare, he equates humility with prema. Now, why is that? Because real, deep humility is full surrender and acceptance of God's direction in our life. And even beyond that, because prema is even beyond what I just said. So humility is not, we know this one, right? It's not thinking bad about ourselves, because we all stink anyway. We're in this material world, right? So that's like a given. You don't have to, but humility is understanding just how wonderful Krishna is, how he can do anything. There's that saying, right? If one who remembers Lord Chaitanya, even the most difficult task can become easy, and vice versa. And just that we have this loving relationship with a loving person who is all powerful and all loving. A lot of lovings there. And what the interesting thing is, that the closer you come to Krishna, the more in love you actually feel more distant. But that distance is ecstasy. So I know that's a whole other topic. So we practice humility, but a lot of it shouldn't be thinking, oh, I'm lower than the worm in stool, or I'm lower than the stool inside the worm, or whatever, but just about how wonderful, how great Krishna is. And why, gosh, why do I not love him? And why do I think about this and that? Please, Krishna, please, please, please help me be more focused on you. So the question might be, Krishna, to devotees and to Krishna, how can I be more absorbed? I was thinking about Akura's journey to Vrindavan. He was totally absorbed. That whole trip going from Mathura to Vrindavan. One little side thing that's kind of cool about that trip is Kamsa gave him a new chariot to drive to Vrindavan, and Akura was so happy that he got a new chariot, because he really didn't want Krishna to have to drive and go use Kamsa's prasad, use a chariot that Kamsa had already used. But anyway, he was so absorbed. So that might be a way that we could become humble, just be, how can I become more absorbed when I'm chanting, when I'm reading, etc. I hope that's helpful. Gregory? Oops.
Hey, good morning. Sorry, I'm gonna open you.
Morning.
Hey, good morning. Thank you for class today. So you did say there's something that you mentioned as far as asking, instead of asking someone's name, ask what their philosophy is. I feel like that would be a stumping question for me. I wouldn't know how to answer that concisely. I was wondering if maybe you can give some examples.
So I probably said it too quickly. It was, if someone comes up to you and comes up to me and says, I'm a follower of Swami so-and-so. And you may know darn well that Swami so-and-so is Swami, Mayavadananda. Just really doesn't get it. But we don't want to say, oh, he's just a Mayavadi, right? But we might say, Prabhupada said, Swami so-and-so Ananda, I don't know him. What's his philosophy? And then he says, well, all is one. And then you say, well, that's interesting, because Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Brahmano hi pratishtaham, I'm the basis of the impersonal Brahman. So I wonder how we, that Swami, I'm sure, is a wonderful person, but Krishna, the supreme, and in that way, you don't offend the person, you don't attack the person, you just question some of their philosophy, which is a nice thing to do. And we don't need to attack a person. That's not really necessary, but we can correct the philosophy. Does that help a little bit more, Gregory?
That's yeah, very helpful. Thank you. I appreciate it. And then kind of back to that like Socratic method of that Bhima was talking about. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, my pleasure. Bhakti Center has their hand up.
Hare Krishna, Vraj Bihari, Prabhu.
Hey, Haribo Prabhuji.
I have a question. You mentioned, and I understood the point about sometimes we may ask a question, and if we don't get the answer we want, we go to a different person to ask the question again. Like a child, if mom doesn't give the right answer, then we'll go to dad, and if dad doesn't give, we go to grandma and grandpa, like that. But I was thinking also that, like Pariksha Maharaj was in an assembly of great personalities, and we know at the end of the first canto it says that some of them were espousing different philosophy that he didn't really want to hear in answer to his questions, so he was waiting for Shukadeva Goswami. So where's the balance in making sure that we find someone who can resonate their answers with kind of where we're at? Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, I guess with Maharaj Parikshit, he was guided. He knew he was a pure devote. He is who he was. He is who he is, and he has everything going for him. Krishna in the womb, this great lineage, right? So he knew when he had hit the real jackpot, so to speak, when Sukadeva Goswami showed up. As for us, this might not sound so scientific, and I could imagine someone maybe being a little critical, but I think in general, we want to ask a question of people that we trust, that we know them quite well, and they know us. Time's almost up, but I remember in this old book, the Stephen Covey's book years ago, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and he talks about a doctor was out of town, so he had another doctor take his place, and the doctor was at a football match, and this person's daughter had a very high fever, so reluctantly they called the fill-in doctor and made an announcement over the loudspeaker, and he got on the phone and he spoke to him, and the doctor prescribed some medicine, and they hung up. And then the parents said, "Oh, I didn't tell the doctor how old my daughter is." And so they, "Oh God, what do we do?" So they actually another loudspeaker and the doctor said, "Oh, I'm so glad. I thought she was like 8 years old. She's only 2 years old. Oh, that would have been terrible." So no, get this medicine instead, or use, this much smaller. So it does help a lot to ask people, especially if we're asking for advice, that people that we feel know us and know our situation, and we may have had previous good experiences in talking with them, or in advice that they've given us, because lots of times our preaching is like a shotgun. Shotgun sends out little pieces of shrapnel in a big area, but when you know somebody well, it can be more like a laser, right? If you, with a shotgun, you close your eyes, you shoot at, and you just hope you hit something. But with a laser, it goes right into the heart, right? So I find that's often a good thing, especially if we're talking about something practical, not just pure philosophy, but something practical. It's good to talk to someone who knows us. That makes sense, Shadi Prabhu?
So
And I think our time is up.
How many Shiksha gurus are we supposed to have as practicing devotees?
I've never read anything about that. But we are very, very fortunate if we have 1 or 2 or 3 really good friends that we can tell them anything about us, and not, no holding back, and it's not going to end up on Facebook tomorrow, or not Instagram. Facebook should give away my age. So I'll comment on that if we have and if we have one Shiksha Guru that we really knows us and trusts us, then we're really fortunate also. Yeah, there is no limit, right? Krishna Chandra Prabhu says. But but then what Johnny Tai said, I have so many Shiksha Guru, I'm going to keep shopping around till I get the answer I want. Okay, so I hope you remember about the power of questions. And thank you again, as always, Ananda Bihari, for giving me a chance to address such wonderful devotees.
Thank you, Prabhu. Wonderful class. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, everyone.
Hare Krishna. Okay, time to be seen by the Lord. Thank you for turning on your cameras. Who can do it, that's fine. If you can't.
Jai.
By His grace, one could cross the ocean of material suffering and attain the mercy of Krishna. I only wish to have my conscience purified by the words emanating from His lotus mouth. Attachment to His lotus feet is a perfection that fulfills all desires. He opens my dark eyes and fills my heart with transcendental knowledge. He is my Lord, birth after birth. From Him ecstatic prema emanates, and by Him ignorance is destroyed. Vedic scriptures sing of His character. Our spiritual master is the ocean of mercy, the friend of the poor, the Lord, master of the devotees. O Master, be merciful unto us. Give us the shade of your lotus feet. May your fame be spread all over the three worlds. We take shelter at your lotus feet. Jai.
Thank you, Jani Tai Prabhu. Hare Krishna, welcome to the Afterglow. Would anyone like to speak? Bhima Prabhu has all the answers. He's here. So feel free to ask. Bhima is your Shiksha Guru by default, by being here on this call. Krishna Kumari, You're smiling. Is that a question?
Well, I really liked just when Jani Taipabu was speaking.
Krishna Kumari, it's
He
choppy.
kind of gave the answer. He was saying like the child that wants. Never mind.
No, we got it. We got it. The child wants the particular answer. It goes to dad, then to mom. Yeah.
Well, it's like more about the questioner, right? So Parikshit Maharaj really he wants like the jewel, you know? It's the
Yeah,
same as the child.
and look at their situation. Arjuna was on the battlefield. Maharaj Parikshit was cursed to die, and they were asking such wonderful questions.
And
They
then
were
the
gonna-
child really wants to play and wants this great toy or, you know? So like the intention is actually so pure. That's why they're going to grandma or grandpa. If they just wanted to like, you know, have some knowledge about something else, they might go to somebody else. So I just think that the answer lies within us, that we need to more look at why are we asking the question more than in, you know, how do we ask the question, who do we ask the question to. It's more about like, what is my intention, what do I want from this question. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Krishna Kumari. A Vaishnava is always introspective, always thoughtful and philosophical. A Vaishnavi too. Yeah. Thank you, Krishna Kumari. We're asking because deep down we just want to know, does this person love me? Do they know that I exist? Right? Krishna Chandra, do you love me? Do you know that I exist? I want to know. Krishna Chandra, come on. Let me know.
Sorry, Prabhu. It took me a long time to unmute myself. But yes, I love you very much as one of the great devotees in my life. So I thank you for all your association and guidance.
Thank you. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you.
Oh,
And then
yes.
in the same way, when somebody's trying to maybe even attack us or challenge us, we should always know as Vaishnavas that really underneath everything, they just want to know if we love them. It's a call for love. All those challenges,
Yes.
all those, attacks, it's just a call for love. I remember Virabhadra Prabhu gave a whole class on that. It's a call for love. Everything is a call for love, essentially.
I believe that. That's very succinct.
Jai, thank you.
Yep.
Min Kim has her hand up.
I really love that. Everything and every question is a call for love. And I'm just remembering how Arjuna asks questions, and some of the questions are similar questions he's asked, and he's asking again and again, and how Krishna, with such a care and love, responds to those questions. So I really like that. I see how that dynamic is call for love on Arjuna's part, and also, I guess, on Krishna also. I love you. I want you to know that I love you. Do you love me also?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Min Kim. Yeah, at one time I was complaining to Adipurusha Prabhu about another devotee. I was saying, oh, this person did that, and then he said that, and he yelled at me. And Adipurusha Prabhu said, he just wants to know if you love him. Do you remember that incident, Adipurusha Prabhu? No? You got distracted. All right. Absentee listener. I thought Bhima
We were
Prabhu was
waiting for you to
there.
let us in.
Okay. So we're talking about how every question is a call for love, and
Yeah.
every challenge is a call for love.
Hmm.
And I was given this example where I was complaining about somebody. I was hurting because this devotee treated me harshly, and I complained to you about that, seeking justice. And you told me, don't take it personally. He just wants to know if you love him. No names here.
It's so cool. Children, when they get to a certain stage, they start to ask questions, profound questions, right? That, and then when you try to answer it, then they ask you another question, and you just have to go, it has to go to Krishna consciousness, or, there's no hope, of getting out of it. But there's different, Arjuna, um, in the Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada explains that there's different kinds of questions that it's appropriate to inquire submissively rather than challengingly. Some people ask a challenging question and they really don't want an answer. I've had experience where people ask me a question and I try to answer. Well, Prabhupada said this, and it says this in the scripture, and they're asking again and again and again. And I realized that they really don't want to hear anything.
Oh, yeah, you told me about that. You told it's a false inquirer.
So
They wanna take your mind and bounce it like a basketball up and down. Where are you from? What is this? What is that? Who do you vote for? Those are false inquirers.
So praying to Krishna in a situation like that, what should I say to this person? So what Krishna seems to be telling me, and what really works, is when I see they're really not asking, I'd say, well, you've got some good questions, but there's a question that we can ask ourselves, right? That's interesting. You put it back on them. Ask yourself this question. Let's ask ourselves this question. Do I want someone in my life who's worthy of my complete trust and obedience? Do I want somebody in my life, that I can look up to, that really has the ability to speak to the truth and really cares about me? Do I want somebody in my life who's worthy of my trust and obedience? And I find that just stops that string of like weird questions, right?
Are you implying that
Try it. What?
are you implying that you should be the one they trust unconditionally?
No,
No.
I'm just trying to find out if that's what they want. And if a person says, no, I don't want somebody in my life who's worthy of my trust and obedience, then what's the use? But most of them will say, you know what, that makes a lot of sense. I do. I do want somebody in my life that's worthy of my. And then we say, well, Krishna, it says in the scripture that Krishna will grant that. Krishna will send, when the disciple is ready,
Yeah.
the guru appears in our lives. You know, that it's not that there's no one available. Sometimes people think like that there's nobody I trust. There's nobody. I'm just going to figure it out myself because there's so many phony people around that really don't care and really don't know what they're talking about. So they just get to this, they put themselves in a hole and they're just cut off, and they just think it's just me.
And it's true. There is a lot of phoniness in the world, but that
That's a
only
fact.
kind of points to the counterfeit money points to the fact that there are real money.
Very good.
Prabhupada's analogy. So false gurus may be there, but that only it kind
Somewhere
of
there's got to be a real one.
indicates that there are real gurus out there too. Nice.
Otherwise, why does this counterfeit currency have this shape, this color, this size, and have this printing on it? Because it's trying to get the value, the purchasing power of a real bill without doing the work,
Yeah.
So there's got to be a real one somewhere. But the point is, do we want it? Prabhu was talking about how you shop around and try to find somebody who's going to give you the answer you want, But do you want the truth? Or do you want to just pretend you're asking a question and get somebody to reinforce your ridiculous idea?
Yeah. Thank you.
All glories to Prabhupada.
Thank you. Adipusha Prabhu. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Okay, we can take one more contribution to the yagya. Please, dear devotees, unmute yourself and throw a pertinent comment in the fire of Sankirtan or congregational glorification of Krishna. Mhm. Okay, so time for introverts. Introverts, it's your turn. How about Angel? Angel, you look so philosophical. What's your take on?
Work. What are you doing? Nervous. And you'll have to do work. He can't do this chanting. He's got to get action. He's a man of action.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, no nonsense, Angel. No nonsense, Angel. Yeah. Krishna Chandra has his hand up.
Oh, Hare Krishna. Yeah, we were talking about Shiksha gurus, and I had just done some research to see if I could find anything that was relevant. I wanted to share just a very brief, like Srila Prabhupada purport to Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Leela, chapter 1, verse 34. And it says, the guru who first initiates one with the Mahamantra is known as the initiator. And the saints who give instructions for progressive advancements in Krishna consciousness are called instructing spiritual masters. The initiating and instructing spiritual masters are equal and identical manifestations of Krishna. Although they have different dealings, their function is to guide the conditioned souls back home, back to Godhead.
Thank you, Krishna Chandra.
Thank you. Thanks.
Very, very valuable input. Can you say Hare Krishna with your sweet radio Krishna radio voice, Krishna Chandra?
Hare Krishna.
Nice. Thank you. Thank you very much, Krishna Chandra. All right. All glories to Srimad Bhagavatam. All glories to the devotees who asked questions for us. Arjuna, Maharaj Parikshit, Naimishranya Forest Sages. We thank them. And we thank you for participating. We wish you a wonderful day.
I can't see anything.
He says, I can't see. I can't see.
The streaking.
Adipushpa Prabhu, you can see. You have the vision. You have the vision. The sun is out there. The sun is Krishna. You can see everything.
Oh, I go out with.
And you have angel.
Yeah.
Paramatma, external manifestation.
It's not the sun. It's the streaking in the window.
Okay, Hare Krishna. The yagya is over. Adi and Angel, we love you. Hare Krishna.